927. I'm joined by a man who knows the realty scene, Jim Bottrell from Jim Bottrell Real Estate, who's joining us now, talking about all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, a couple topics.
All right, let's go rapid fire, get as much of it as possible.
Sure.
I was reading the Wall Street Journal, talking about how home prices across the fruited plain are in decline. But then I look around my neighborhood and see nothing but going north. So is Wall Street Journal all wet here?
Yeah, well, the journalistic principle of it bleeds, it leads. So they're using articles like that to get clicks and reads. That's fine. They're quoting historical data. So, for example, that article you're talking about, the Wall Street Journal one, I read it too. They're using a one-year average. All right, so yeah, 1 year average, but that doesn't reflect, a 1 year average doesn't reflect what's happening in the market right now today.
So they're just behind the times.
Yes, they're statistics of the past, rearview mirror.
Hey, you know what the hot button issue is, if I could just jump ahead, is mortgage rates.
Yeah.
As far as the president and his executive pen. Saying now suddenly, if I was, my dad, pay your bills, pay on time, have the highest credit rating score you can possibly have. That's a sign of pride, and you should be proud of that. Now, it works against me.
Kind of. There are a lot of people that are very upset about this, extremely upset about this. So, so people know what you're talking about is Joe Biden signed an executive order, takes effect Monday, 48 hours from now. And what that does is it adjusts the LLPA matrix. So that's the loan limit or loan level price adjustment matrix. And that has been around since 2008. And it actually does some good things. And the best way to really explain it is that it makes adjustments for people's interest rates based on some credit factors, like on what their down payment is and then how much of their FICO score. So best way to describe it is to talk about a hypothetical example. So let's talk about buyer one. Buyer one, they saved their money. They're coming in with a 20% plus down payment, and they pay their bills on time every time. And let's say they have an 800 FICO. So historically, they're the lowest risk to the bank. So they will get the best interest rate because of the low risk. Let's talk about buyer B. Buyer B maybe has low or no down payment, and maybe they struggle with paying their things on time. And let's say they have a 580 credit score. Now, 580 people with credit scores, they buy houses all the time, but this matrix would increase their interest rate artificially because they are higher risk. So buyer one might get 6% hypothetically, and let's say buyer two gets 7% hypothetically. And most people, they get it. They think that's fair. Joe Biden apparently doesn't. So with a stroke of a pen, he changed the LLPA. So now what's going to happen is that buyer one with that big down payment and 800 FICO, they're no longer going to get the 6%. They're now going to get 6 1/8, 6 1/4, and they'll have a couple extra fees in their closing costs. And that is designed to pay for buyer B, who with the lower down payment and lower FICO score, maybe they don't get that 7% anymore. Now they get 6 3/4, and their closing costs are reduced some.
Somewhere Karl Marx is just smiling and just loving that.
Lenin loves it too. Yeah, so there's a big rumor I want to talk about. Rumor is that people that have higher credit will pay a higher interest rate, or better credit will pay a higher interest rate than people with bad credit. That is actually false. All right, now there's a gap. So let's say you have that the buyer one pays 6%, buyer two pays 7%. Now buyer one is going to pay 6 1/4, and buyer two with the bad credit is going to pay 6 3/4. So the bad credit is still paying more, but the gap has been reduced, paid for by the person who saved their money and paid their bills on time. So a lot of people very, very upset about this. But it really shouldn't, I mean, mathematically, it shouldn't make a difference. Logically, it shouldn't make a difference because maybe you have a payment that goes from $4,000 to $4,050 a month. I mean, it's 40, 50, 60 bucks a month is what it makes a difference. So it shouldn't change your thought pattern on whether or not to buy or not. Mentally, that's a tough pill to swallow.
If the White House occupant is ever a capitalist again, or if we ever elect somebody with conservative trends, that all could go to the wayside with a stroke of the pen, too.
Yeah, right? Executive orders can wipe out executive orders.
You got time for one more?
Sure.
Because let's just talk about the trends. I mean, is this here to stay? At least if you're a Californian, yeah. So
the market is back. The crazy market is back. What we have seen is since January 15th. You know, back then I was here and I said, we're seeing a weird trend. I think it's a flash in the pan. It's not a flash in the pan. It's here to stay. Buyers are back. Interest rates leveled out, but there's very few houses for sale. Sellers, like I always say, they're dug in like an Alabama tick. They're not selling that house that has a 2 or 3% interest rate. And builders can't catch up. So the buyer demand is back. The supply is limited. So anytime, you know, fundamentals of economics, when demand exceeds supply, prices go up. So what we have seen is multiple offers on most houses, sometimes crazy. We just had one with 51 offers offers. Line down the street to get in a house that when I saw it, I thought that looks like the line for the Matterhorn at Disneyland. It was ridiculous. And we're seeing most houses go over ask, some of them insane amounts over ask. And this is here to stay. We will see this shortage of supply for the next 3 to 5 years, which is really good for housing prices. So housing prices are going to go up unless there's something crazy out of the blue happens. I mean, obviously,
World
it's the
War or
anomaly.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
But then if you're prepared to, if you're going to sell, do not look in the rearview mirror, because if you leave California, you're gone for good, right? There's no.
Yeah, it's like my dad. I think we talked about it last time. My dad left California. He can't get back because the appreciation in California far exceeded what the appreciation is in Nevada. He couldn't come back if he wanted to now.
Our next conversation will focus on rental prices because they're going through the roof too.
Yes, they are.
Even with all
they're
the
going to
rental rules?
they're going to keep going up. They're going to keep going up.
This is how you get a hold of Jim, and no one knows more about the scene than this guy, so check it out, and we'll be right back with more Good Morning San Diego.